Good day, Junior Tuckies, and welcome to this video dealing with worksheet questions 3 and 4 in this plant diversity section. My name is Mr. P. I'm going to be taking you through this section. Make sure that you get a hold of the theory booklet as well as the worksheet and the worksheet memorandum, and let's work through these questions together. Right, so the first thing to take note of is that whenever you're looking at a whole lot of questions, we first get context to what we're looking at. Okay, in this case, we're looking at question 3 of our worksheet, and we can see that question 3 deals with the image that we see at the top here, which is the section through a flower. So 3.1, what type of pollination can be linked to the flower? Now, if we haven't got context, this becomes a little bit difficult in identifying the parts. So let's close up the questions quickly and get a little bit of context from our image first. So if we look here, we see that our labels are A, because we always try and write our labels in before we look at the questions, because then we're not compromised as to the question. So A, stigma. We can see that B, anther. C, we've got here as the style. D, we've got the ovary, and we can see the little ova inside, the ovules there. We've got E, the sepals, and F, then the petals of the flower. Okay, so now we can see that these are the identified parts of our flower section, so we're most likely going to have reference to them somewhere in these questions that we're going to answer. So once we've got this context, it makes those questions just so much easier to answer at the end of the day. Right, what type of pollination can be linked? So this could be pollination by self, so in other words, the anther pollinating itself, and most likely by wind that is going to blow the anther where the pollen is transferred in that matter or that means. Okay, if we look at the different parts that we're asked to identify here, it says identify parts A and B, and we've already done that when we get the context. We're working on our context, so these two questions become so easy for us to answer: the stigma and the anther. Question 3.3, what do we call F and E together? So in other words, those parts over there, and we find that being the perianth of the flower. 3.4, give the letter only where pollen is received. So pollen is received to A. Remember, we only write down the letter if we're asked for the letter. Otherwise, our answer will not be correct. Where the seed can form, and we're looking at D. And remember, we're probably referring to only those areas that have a letter to them. So please don't try and identify something that does not have a letter labeled on the image. So here we can see the seed can form at D, and then pollen is produced at B. So this was actually a pretty straightforward question, and we made it just that much easier for ourselves when we got context right in the beginning. If we look at question 4, there's a little bit of biological terminology that we're going to be looking at here. So we're only looking for the biological term. I've done the first one very quickly for you there. The bilobed structure at the tip of the filament containing pollen grains. So this is the male structure of the flower, and we have the anther there. 4.2, the enlarged portion, the basal enlarged portion of the pistil of the flowers containing the ovules. So there we have the enlarged part of that female structure right at the bottom, and there's our ovary. 4.3, part of the pistil of plants that receives pollen during pollination, and this is the top of that female structure, which is the stigma. Transfer of pollen from an anther to a stigma of the same or the stigma of a different flower of the same species. Here we have pollination. This can either be through wind or insect, it doesn't matter. We're talking about the transfer of pollen. So therefore, pollination. We work with that word in the general context in the answering of this question. Okay, 4.5, a fleshy, often sweet layer formed around the seeds in angiosperm following fertilization. So and this is the sort of the structure that surrounds the seeds after fertilization has taken place. And this is the fruit of the plant, or the fruit that forms around the seeds after fertilization has taken place. 4.6, the thickened part of the stem from which the flower can grow, and here we have the receptacle, okay, of the stem. The receptacle of the stem, that is where we've got the flower growing from. All right, so these were pretty straightforward. Maybe these were a couple of words that we hadn't seen before. If that is the case, be sure to go over a few more biological terminologies in this section on plant diversity, just to make sure that they can't catch us out in this section over here. All right, thanks Junior Turkeys. Thank you for joining me in this video. I hope that it's given you a little bit of insight and context. Join us for a few more videos in this and other sections where we help you prepare for your final exams. Thanks so much and have a great day.